Hello everyone and welcome to Valamore Things. Feel free to follow me to see more of my content. Thank you and I hope you'll enjoy the video. Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about the best cards in Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Much likely as we did for Murders of Cavalry Manor, we're gonna talk about this time about the top 20 cards for the modern format, because I think there are many playable cards in this expansion in some ways. So top 10 wasn't enough and I decided to make a top 20 of Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and I will also deal a top 5 from the big score, which is a set in the set, but we will talk about that later in the next video. Today we're just talking about Outlaws of Thunder Junction and its top 20 cards. This time the cards aren't ranked based on power level, but just randomly. So we're gonna see cards in some random order, just how I like them. So yeah, let's talk about the first card that comes into my mind when I think about this set, which is Jace Reawakened. So I don't know if you're following the lore or something, but basically Jace tricked everyone pretending to be Ashok, but in the end revealing himself to be Jace Beleren. But apart from that, this card has some implications here. The only thing is that you can't cast this spell during your first, second, and third turn of the game. But once you play this guy, you can generate a decent amount of value, I think. Because just the first, it comes into play with 3 loyalty counters, and he has 2 plus abilities and 1 minus 6. So the first one is basically looting. You draw a card and you discard a card, which is not bad, but also not very good. It's not card advantage, but you can cycle away things you don't need and draw new cards every single turn with a +1, which is not bad. But the second ability is just way stronger. You may exile a non-land card with mana value 3 or less from your hand. If you do, it becomes plotted. So plot, it means you can play this exiled card in one of your next turns whenever you want, but as a without paying its mana cost, as a sorcery speed. So you can exile whatever you need with 3 or less mana and play it in a next turn, in an upcoming turn. So the first thing that comes into my mind to cheat this thing into play before turn 3 is, of course, cascading with Shadowless Agent, but also as foretold. And the things you can cast with Jace Reawakened are Valky, God of Lies, because this isn't cascade. So if you exile Valky, God of Lies, you can then play Tibalt, Cosmic Impostor, which is very good. And of course, even if Jace dies, Valky is already plotted, so you can play it whether Jace is alive or not. And other than that, of course, Ancestral Vision, Crushing Footfalls, and all these cards are good with Shardless Agent and as foretold, because on turn 3 you can go as foretold, playing Ancestral Vision, draw 3. I know that no one is doing that, but I mean, there's a potential shell where you could do this. I mean, Shardless Agent, Jace Reawakened, as foretold, Ancestral Vision, Crushing Footfalls. I don't know. Maybe this thing can work. I don't know. There's also Hollow Forager that can play things from your graveyard without paying its mana cost, since the cost is 0. So it's not that bad. But I will give this card like a 4 out of 10. It's not a powerhouse. Definitely decent. Every single Planeswalker with 2 mana is interesting. 2 mana cost is interesting. But this is definitely not a powerhouse. So let's talk about the next card, the second one, which is, in my opinion, the best card in the set. The second card is Satoru, I don't know, the Infiltrator. So this thing here works well, with so many cards that this is just insane. So let's pretend that we switch off, of course, up the Beanstalk from my old affinity list, with which I won many trophies like 5 months ago. We switch out to up the Beanstalk and we put Satoru the Infiltrator in, and we switch out, I don't know, Emery or whatever, and we put like a bunch of Frogmites. So what's the point here? Let's read about Satoru here. So 2 mana cost, 1 blue, 1 black, 2/3 menace, which is not bad. Whenever Satoru the Infiltrator and one or more non-token creatures enters the battlefield under your control, if none of them was cast or no mana was spent to cast it, draw a card. So we go Satoru, Memnite, draw 1, Ornithopter, draw 1, Frogmite, draw 1. We tap them, Allohopper, draw 1. We have like 2 artifact lands and a Springleaf Drum. Sojourner's Companion, draw 1. Mere Enforcer, draw 1. This is snowballing, like, I mean, this could be potentially insane. And potentially even better than Beanstalk, because look at these other cards. You go Satoru, Grief, draw 1. Subtlety, draw 1. Solitude, draw 1. I mean, the best you can do is like Satoru, I mean, turn 1, False Seeds, pass the turn. Satoru, pass the turn. I scam Grief and I go Ephemerate and I draw 2 while discarding 2 cards from my opponent's hand. This has the potential to be insane. Subtlety, draw 1, you get the point. Also, let's not forget about Bloodgust, because, I mean, you go turn 1, self-milling, like Otherworldly Gates, whatever. Turn 2, you go Satoru. And, I don't know, turn 3, you go, I don't know, you discard something, you play a land, Bloodgust enters the battlefield, you draw 1, you dredge. I mean, let's think about dredge here. This is going to be insane. Narcomoeba enters the battlefield, you draw 1, you dredge, you put, I don't know, Vengevine into the graveyard, Vengevine enters the battlefield, you draw, you dredge again. Prized Amalgam, I mean, I couldn't stock all the cards that Satoru is good with in one single slide, so this is just out of control in my opinion. I will give Satoru a 9 out of 10. And it also works with Ether Vial and of course Ninjutsu. I think he's meant for Ninjutsu. Because, you know, when you Ninjutsu a card, you don't actually pay the cost, so you easily trigger. You must trigger Satoru, you know. So this is pretty good. So in my opinion, this is the best card of the set, and I will give Satoru like 9 out of 10. But let's talk about the next card. Sorry. Okay, Oko, the Ringleader. So this guy here, I don't think he is particularly strong, but he has some upsides. Okay, so at the beginning of combat on your turn, Oko, the Ringleader, becomes a copy of target creator you control until the end of turn. Except he has X-Proof. So that's interesting because you cannot copy legendary creators like Sheoldred, but you can copy, let's say, I don't know, a Tarmogoyf or whatever, and he has X-Proof, or I don't know, Nishaba Brawler, but this has Hexproof, so it's pretty insane. Scion of Draco, but he has X-Proof, so really strong. +1, draw 2 cards if you've committed a crime, and commit a crime means you interact with something your opponents control, your opponent's hand, your opponent's permanent, or your opponent's graveyard. So if you have committed a crime, you draw 2 and you discard 1. So this is card advantage, not like Jace. Otherwise discard 2 cards, and that's a complete faithless looting. Which led me to think about Reenact the Crime. I mean, you can go in a more mid-range shell with, I don't know, counter spells, whatever, and you can just try to loot away one big permanent, one big spell, I don't know, Omniscience, Sandworm Convergence, or whatever, and just reenact the crime and cast it for free. The -1 here is create the classic Elk creator token, free, and the ultimate is for each other non-land permanent you control, create a token that's a copy of that permanent. So why I put Sheoldred here? I put Sheoldred here because this can work somehow the same way, because you see Sheoldred has decent interaction with drawings, while Oko has makes you draw cards, so both 4 mana, both potentially with a body, you know. So that's pretty interesting card. I will give Oko a 6 out of 10, and I don't actually think this is going to see play anywhere, but this is a good card to keep an eye on. So on with the next card. This one here might be one of the best cards along Satoru, Slickshot Show-Off. So this is a 2 mana red creature 1/2, flying haste. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, Slickshot Show-Off gets +2/+0 until the end of turn. You can plot this guy, which is super relevant. Because if you play this guy right away on turn 2, you don't have anything to pump this guy with. He will just die to removal. Absolutely for nothing. So I think the best play, like in a power stack, is to plot this guy on turn 2, and in turn 3 you just go off with spells like Lava Dart, Manamorphose, Vicious Bubble, Mutagenic Growth, whatever cheap free spell that can pump this guy. So basically this guy is a fusion between Kiln Fiend and Sprite Dragon, because he has flying, he has haste, but is also a 1/2. So he has the body of the Kiln Fiend, the abilities from the Sprite Dragon, and he gets +2/+0 instead of +3/+0 that the Kiln Fiend has. This thing here, 8 out of 10, huge potential to make Prowess becoming at least a tier 1.5 deck. This thing here will see play much like Ledger Shredder did. So grab a set before this is too expensive. So 8 out of 10, definitely will brew around this guy. Next card, here we are. Magda, the Hoardmaster. So this thing here, I think many other streamers slept on this. So 2 mana, 1 colorless and 1 red, 2/2. Whenever you commit a crime, so targeting opponents, anything they control and or cards in the graveyard is a crime, as I said. So Relic of Progenitus is a crime, Bolt is a crime, Farseeds is a crime, and so on. You create a tapped treasure token. This ability triggers only once each turn, but not only during our turn. So we can make 2 tokens per, let's say, per complete turn. So 1 during your turn, 1 during your opponent's turn. If you sacrifice 3 treasure tokens, which are not a lot, 3 treasure tokens are easy to do, create a 4/4 red Scorpion Dragon creature token with flying and haste. Activate only as a sorcery. So this thing will have haste, and you can create as many as you wish during your turn, so no limitations like in the previous ability. Sorry. So how can we exploit this? There's another version of Magda. Magda Brazen Outlaws. Other dwarves you control gets +1/+0. Yeah, well, we don't care about that. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token. So attack with Magda, create a treasure token. Attack with Magda, the Hoardmaster, another treasure token. And this girl here also has an ability with treasures. Sacrifice 5 treasures or more than 3. Search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that onto the battlefield, search, then shuffle your library. That's a 2/1, so it dies a lot. But that's also an interesting card, because we have like Strike at Reach. You go turn 1, Strike at Reach, just basically 1 mana, create a treasure token. Flashback, do the same, sorcery. So this thing here can fill the board with treasure tokens. We then have, of course, Fable of the Mirror Breaker, the Shaman. We create, when that guy attacks, you create a treasure token. We have, of course, Ragavan. You all know what this guy does. And we have this Generous Plunder from the Big Score. I wouldn't talk about the Big Score card in this video, but since we have this guy, which is very relevant here, I'm gonna talk about that. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may create a treasure token. When you do, target opponent creates a tap treasure token. Whenever this guy attacks, it deals combat damage to defending player equal to the number of artifacts you control. So this thing here could be potentially good in a treasure shell, but also, I mean, in a food shell, but we're not here to talk about this guy. This guy just generates token only by existing treasure tokens, so this is good. And we have, of course, Xorn from the Dungeons and Dragons expansion. If you will create 1 or more treasure tokens, instead create those tokens plus 1 additional treasure token. So if you combine everything we have here, and many other cards that I think Aspiring Spike spoke about another card. But by the way, if you combine everything you see here, it's pretty easy to exploit Magda the Hoardmaster and make so many Scorpion Dragon, that's so cool by the way, hasty and flying Scorpion Dragons, and we can close the game out in 1 or 2 turns. And also all these cards like Fable, Ragavan, Generous Plunder, they are all good by themselves. So it's just, you know, many good cards put together in a deck. I can clearly see like Relic of Progenitus to trigger the Metacrime ability. Bolt, I don't know, Unholy Heat, Mishra's Bubble, because if we target the opponent with Mishra's Bubble, I think we commit a crime. I'm not sure though. Do they control their libraries? I'm not sure though. Well, by the way, we can... You get the point, okay? I will give Magda the Hoardmaster a 6.5 out of 10. Huge potential. Let's see if we can brew around this once it's out. On with the next card. Next card is Final Showdown. So this thing here is basically Dress Down plus Wrath of God at instant speed. So the upside is that compared to Dress Down, it's that you have more flexibility. You can also target your creators and give Indestructible, or you can just rat everything away, or you can just go like Dress Down and all creatures loses all ability until the end of turn. So the upside is flexibility. The downside is that this card is white and doesn't cycle himself away like Dress Down. But I would rather probably pick, depending on the deck, Final Showdown over Dress Down because of his flexibility, as I said. So that's a fusion between Dress Down, Wrath of God, and other instant speed tricks that I like a lot. And also, I think the art is pretty cool. I don't know who this gentleman is, but he's looking really cool, isn't he? Well, on with the next card. Sorry. Ruthless Lawbringer. So when Ruthless Lawbringer enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice another creature. When you do, destroy target non-land permanent. This is very good, because we can sacrifice things like Bloodghast, Gravecrawler, or whatever that may come back from the graveyard, or I don't know, some sort of token we created with I don't know what kind of engine, But once you do so, you destroy target non-land permanent. This is absolutely good. I don't know, maybe in some sort of Orzoff Ephemerate Shell with, I don't know, Grief, Bloodgust, Grave Crawler, and some other zombies to trigger the Crawler. I can see that happening. Like 1 or 2 off of the Ruthless Lawbringer, maybe 2 off. It's a nice removal and also a nice body, 3-2. I will give this card like a 6 out of 10. And I would like to see this being played in some sort of decks. I will try to brew around this, for sure. On with the next card. Okay. Pillage the Bog. So basically, this thing here is dig through time, not at instant speed, but with plot and in shitty colors. So look at the top X cards of your library, where X is twice the number of lands you control. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. So as you can see, Dig Through Time said look at the top 7 cards of your library, put 2 of them in your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library. So Dig Through Time was obviously way better. So much better that they banned it. So this power level here was too much. Maybe Pillage the Bog is a bit underperforming, but think about this. Like, you're playing like a mid-range control deck with, I don't know, Shieldred, Grief, and I don't know, some green cards for whatever reason. And you want to have some card quality. You can go like turn 3, plotting this thing, casting this in like turn 6, turn 7. When you have at least 5 lands on the battlefield, you can look at the top 10 or 12 cards of your library and you can grab a bomb that you need. And you will have the mana to cast it because you plotted this thing, so you cast it without paying its mana cost. This is interesting. I will give this thing like a 5 out of 10. I don't think this thing will see much play. Potentially yes, but it's not like instantly becoming a staple like Leyline of the Kaervek did. That was so obvious, by the way. Pillage the Bog, really good card, 5 out of 10, solid. On with the next one. So the Gitrog Ravenous Ride. So 5 mana, which is a lot, but stay with me. 5 mana, 6/5 Trample Haste. So whenever the Gitrog Ravenous Ride deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice a creature that saddled this turn. If you do, draw X cards, then put up to X land cards from your hand onto the battlefield tapped, where X is the number of the sacrificed creature power. Saddle 1. So saddle is basically the same as that other mechanic that I don't remember the name, but with vehicle. Yeah, vehicle, probably. Vehicles. So you need a creature with power at least 1 to saddle this thing. So basically you saddle up onto the Gitrog. And once the Gitrog... so if you do so, this creature is saddled. Okay, he attacks and is saddled. Once you do so, this effect we saw down here becomes reality. Trample Haste, so this guy is pretty big and will surely do damage. If we use, let's say, a Vengevine to saddle this thing, and with this thing we're going in for some damage, we draw 4 cards and put lands directly into the battlefield. You know what draw 4 means? That's pretty huge. Okay, I know it's kinda too cute to work. 5 mana is a lot, and you also need something to saddle him up, and he hasn't got any protection from anything, so he can die just Leyline Binding and this guy dies. out of nothing. But, I mean, this is looking great. And also, he looks like my dog. So, I have a black Labrador, by the way. I know you don't care, but just to say it. So I don't really think this thing will see any place anywhere soon. But this thing is potentially good. The only thing is the 5 mana cost. If this was like a 4 mana cost, like 5, 4, 5, 5 with for 4 mana cost, 4, 5, this would have been great. But 5 mana cost, maybe that's too much. I will give this guy a 4.5 out of 10. Okay, so here we are with Pitiless Carnage. So it's a 4 mana black sorcery. Sacrifice any number of permanents you control, then draw that many cards. You can plot this thing away for 3 mana and cast it in one of our next turns without paying the mana cost, only as a sorcery. So my first thought here was Underworld Cookbook, my best friend Academy Manufactor. So many tokens to flood the board. We cast this thing and we draw like 10 cards. But, I mean, we also have Knight of the Sweet's Revenge that can win basically on the spot for the same amount of mana. So, I am not sure that Pitiless Carnage is going to be better, but this thing definitely has some potential in 1 or 2 off. And not only in that kind of deck, but, you know, with Undying Creators or other ways to generate permanents, we can cycle them away and draw that many cards, literally that many cards. And this is definitely an interesting card, because whenever you can sacrifice permanents to draw cards, we have to keep an eye on that. That's a good card. I will give this card like a 5.5 out of 10. On with the next one. Kaervek the Punisher. So this guy here has a huge potential. 2 black mana, 1 colorless, legendary creator, human warlock. So whenever you commit a crime, and by now we know what a crime is, exile up to 1 one target black card from your graveyard and copy it. You may cast the copy. You have to pay the cost to cast the copy, but I mean, if you do, you lose 2 life. Okay, let's say we have this guy on, I don't know, we cast this guy on turn 4, and we have 1 free mana. We go like Relic of Progenitus, and we target the opponent, and we exile something. We go Thought Seeds. We have a Thought Seeds on the graveyard, and we can just copy it and cast it once more. So I think this thing here can. This is really great because you can cast any black card, 1 target black card from your graveyard. So if we have Sheoldred that we want to reanimate and we have the mana, we can just do it. Relic of Progenitus, Thought Seeds, Fatal Push, whatever. And after that we reanimate Sheoldred. Yeah, I mean, we lose 2 life, but this thing here is very good. It's a super card advantage engine. It's a super good card advantage engine. And I think this guy will actually see play in mono black lists that are going around now. The ones with, Sorin or whatever, or that mono black smallpox deck that we saw. This thing here is decent enough. I will give this guy a 7 out of 10, and I'm sure this guy will see play. So grab a playset before it's too late. Because even in Commander, I think this guy will be great. We're not talking about Commander, but as a financial review, this guy will surely see play. And Commit a Crime is such a good mechanic, and so easily triggerable, that this guy will definitely see play. So 7 out of 10 on with the next one. Insatiable Avarice. 1 mana does nothing but spree. 3 mana, search your library for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top. So this is a sorcery, but this reminds me of Vampiric Tutor. Vampiric Tutor, of course, way better, but just to keep in mind from where this card comes. Search your library for a card, then shuffle and put that card on top. You lose 2 life, so you can spree. So if you pay 5 mana, you can put the card you want on top and then draw it. Because with 3 black mana, you go target player, stay with me, target player, not necessarily you, draws 3 cards and loses 3 life. This is basically a Painful Truth, but mono blackish. So this thing alone in mono black shell is already better than Painful Truth. Because Painful Truth is like, yeah, 3 mana, but it has Converge. So you draw X cards and you lose X life, or X is the number of colors you spend to cast this spell. So you cannot play this in a mono black shell because you want to draw anything. And sometimes Night's Whisper is not enough. So Insatiable Avarice, flexible, card advantage or card quality, or both, depending on how much mana you have on the battlefield, and says target player. So let's say we have 1 or 2 copies of Archish Bowmasters on the battlefield. We target our opponent, pam, 3 damage, 1 big orc, or 6 damage, 1 big orc, and think about that, but with Shieldred, 6 damage and we gain 6. Of course I wouldn't do it if we don't close the game with that, because 3 cards are a lot, so it's better if you draw them yourself with Shieldred on the battlefield, but you can potentially close out the game with this card in certain situations, and I love that kind of plays. So I will give this a 7 out of 10. Pretty solid card. Let's go on the next one. Hollow Marauder. One of the best uncommon, if not the best uncommon in the set. So this thing is a 7 mana Spectre Rogue. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each creature card in your graveyard. He has flying, okay, so it's an evasive creature, flying. When Hollow Marauder enters the battlefield, any number of target opponents each discards a card. And this alone is super great, but stay with me. For each of those opponents who didn't discard a card with mana value 4 or greater, which is pretty hard to have, you draw a card. So with basically 1 or 2 mana, you can cast a 4/2 flyer that draws you a card and the opponent discards one. This is insane. The only thing is the mana cost, but I mean, Hadron Crab, Stitcher Supplier, Murfrog Seeker Keeper, and whatever. Dredge. We can play Satoru and this guy and some Dredge creators, and this is going to be a complete mess. My god. This thing, Stitcher Supplier, Murfrog Seeker Keeper, Vengevine. My gosh, this is insane. This thing is very good. And this is probably the second card I will brew around once the set is released, because I love how this thing works. I also love the art of this card. This is very good. I will give this guy an 8 out of 10. Super solid, and I want to play with this. I mean, 4/2 flying, opponent discards, and you draw? If they don't discard like the One Ring, Shieldred, or some Scion of Draco, Leylines, and Bomb of that caliber, you draw? That's insane. That's so good. I'm so excited. 8 out of 10. 8.5. 8.5 out of 10 straight out of it. Next card. Geralf, the Fleshwright. So I also love this guy a lot. 3 mana, 2/3. Whenever you cast a spell during your turn, other than your first spell that turn, create a 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature token. And already like this, it's a pretty decent card, but okay, let's read let's keep reading. Whenever a zombie creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on it for each other zombie that entered the battlefield under your control this turn. So we go like Geralf. Okay. Pass the turn. Okay, back to us. We go like Mishra's Babble, Preordain, and that's a zombie. Manamorphose, that's a 2/2 and a 3/3. We draw another cantrip, like, I don't know, consider, okay, that's a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4. And also Geralf, of course. Lava Dart, okay, 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5. Sacrifice Lava Dart, which is pretty easy to do, okay. 2/2, 3/3, 4/4, 5/5, 6/6, and we basically already won, okay. So this is very good, and I've seen lately some Izzet Storm shells that did pretty good with Case of the Ransacked Lab, the one I spoke about in the previous video from Murders of Card of Manor. I think you can put this card in a Storm shell, like as a finisher, like 2 copies or 3, I don't know. Or just build a deck around this guy and, I don't know, 4 DRC, 4 Ledger Shredder, 2 Geralf, a bunch of Murktides, and I don't know, Preordain, Babble, Bolt, Manamorphose, and whatever you need to trigger this guy. Also, with Ledger Shredder, it could be very great. And think about Underworld Breach. Underworld Breach will close out the game in like 1 turn. If the opponent doesn't have, of course, Wrath of God or whatever, just Underworld Breach on turn 4, and you just fill your graveyard with shit and fill the board with zombies. So Geralf is 7.5 out of 10. 7.5 out of 10. It's difficult to play, or I mean not to play, but to create a shell where you can play him. So 7.5 out of 10. Next card. Gisa, the Hellraiser. Okay, this thing here is as insane as Shieldred. Okay, it costs 1 more mana because it's a 5 mana 4/4, but has ward 2, pay 2 life, so some huge protection here. Skeletons and zombies you control get +1/+1 and have menace. Whenever you commit a crime, create 2 tapped 2/2 blue and black zombie rogue creature tokens. This ability triggers only once each turn. So, as I previously mentioned, Relic of Progenitus, Fatal Push, Thought Seeds, we can easily commit a crime and create 2 tapped 3/3 blue and black zombie rogue tokens with menace. Relic of Progenitus, another round of this thing will close out the game in like 2 turns. That's if she stays on the battlefield. And also ward 2 and pay 2 life. This is insane. Mono black coffers or whatever, 1-2 copies of these is a must. This is completely broken, completely insane. It's 5 mana, whatever. Coffers and we just play it. 1-2 copies as a finisher. This is insane. This will close out the game so fast. I will give this card 8.5 out of 10. On with the next one. This is insane. I would like to brew around this. Requisition Raid. So this is not the best card in the set. But as I spoke about Final Showdown, this thing here compares to Wear and Tear. Upside, flexibility. Okay, flexibility because you can choose whether to destroy target artifact, enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature target player controls, which is huge for only 2 mana. Only thing is not instant speed, but it's sorcery. But another upside compared to Wear and Tear is that you don't need the red mana. So somehow in a shell that doesn't play red, you can play this. It's not as good, of course, as a sideboard card as Wear and Tear against decks that uses artifact and enchantments at the same time, like Primeval Titan shit deck. But this has some flexibility where you can close out the game by just playing the +1/+1 on each creature you control, target player controls. So this has got some upside. I will give this card here like a solid 5 out of 10. On with the next one. Bovine Intervention. 2 mana, instant speed. Destroy target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 2/2 White Ox creature token. So that's an all-around removal that can remove, I don't know, Scion of Draco or whatever, Sheoldred, whatever you want to destroy, at the only price of 2 mana, Amulet of Vigor, Primeval Titan, whatever you need to destroy, only 2 mana. The opponent gets a pretty small 2/2 White Ox creature token. So this thing here reminds me of Generous Gift and Beast Within and Assassin Trophy. So what's the comparison here? Generous Gift and Beast Within both costs like 3 mana and they destroy target permanent. So even lands, even enchantments. So of course Generous Gift and Beast Within are better, and also Assassin Trophy. But the drawback is worse because they create a 3/3 instead of a 2/2 White Oaks. Or they search their library and this thing costs 2 specific mana. So I think Bovine Intervention might see some play in some kind of sideboard. I doubt that, but this was just so fun of an art. So no one could prove the Ox did it, but no one tried to harness it again either. So as you can see, it's a pretty badass quality here. I will give this card like, I don't know, 4 out of 10. Might be playable, but I don't know. Let's see. Next one. Dust Animus. This one is another card that I think it's great. It's a 2 mana, 2/3 flying with Plot 2, which is once more very relevant here. So if you control 5 or more untapped lands, so untapped. So if you tap to cast this guy, you probably want to control 5 or more untapped lands. Dust Animus enters the battlefield with 2 +1/+1 counters and a lifelink counter on it. So let's say you plot this thing like on turn 3 or whatever in some sort of Azorius control deck, Esper control deck, and you cast it later on when you have 5 or more untapped lands. This thing will be a 4/5 flying lifelink that will close out the game like in 2 or 3 turns. So this reminds me of the best angels in the game, like Serra Angel with Baneslayer Angel and Exalted Angel. So this is probably an Exalted Angel, but instead of Morph, you have Plot. So pretty good. It's not an angel, it's a spirit. Pretty badass design also. I really love this card, and this might see some play in, as I said, control mid-range-ish decks, or maybe even in like some sort of death and taxes thing. I don't know. You know, you can either vial this thing down, and you will have at a certain point 5 or more untapped lands. Otherwise, it's a pretty decent 2/3 flying creature. So I will give this guy a 7 out of 10. On with the next card. Another round. Okay, so XX, 2 colorless and 1 white, sorcery. Exile any number any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under the owner's control. Then repeat this process X more times. So at 3 mana, you blink all the creatures you have on the battlefield. At 5, you blink them twice. This is so good in the right shell. So this reminded me of a deck I previously played on paper. My channel wasn't open yet, and the modern metagame was way different. A deck that I decently played with good results in paper. So Soul Herder Blink. Maybe discard another round, which I will give a 6.5 out of 10 as a rating. This card here can make this archetype comeback. We also played that thing with 1 green mana, 1 blue mana, 1/1. When that enters the battlefield, you draw 1. Icefang Kotal. Was that? Yeah. Icefang Kotal is not playable anymore because of Orcish Bowmasters, but lately Bowmasters is not really a thing in Modern, so maybe it's time to try and build a blinkish deck with another round, like 1 or 2 copies, not more, of course, because it's 3 mana and does nothing alone. So we might be able to see this card played, and I will try to brew with this probably. So 6.5 out of 10, pretty decent. I love the design of this card, blinking to gain some value. It's always a good thing. So let's see what the future holds. On with the next card. And this is the last one, Aven Interrupter. So 3 mana, 2/2, flash, flying. When Aven Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. So basically, I don't know, opponent casts the 1 ring, shbam, Aven Interrupter. Exile that, it becomes plotted. But that's not only it. Spells your opponent casts from graveyards or from exile costs 2 more to cast, so they will have to pay 6 mana for their goddamn ring. This guy here reminded me of 2 cards I played in the past, which are Aven Mind Chancellor, Flash Flying, so like this, also very similar art. If an opponent will search library, that player searches the top 4 cards of the library instead, which is pretty great, staple in like 14 years ago. And Anointed Peacekeeper, when this guy enters the battlefield, you look at an opponent's hand, you choose a card name, spells with the chosen name costs 2 more, activated abilities of sources with the chosen name cost 2 more. So basically, this guy here, Aven Interrupter, is the fusion between Anointed Peacekeeper and Aven Mind Chancellor, brought in the latest set. So it's pretty funny how they mixed up some cards to design cards in this set, pretending we wouldn't notice. But I love it because Aven Interrupter we'll see somehow play, because it's a very, very good piece of interaction in the right color. So maybe, I don't know, Deafened Taxis or White Weenie or some sort of decks like that will play like 2 or 3 copies of this to counter, this guy has flash, but you can also put it down on the battlefield with Aether Vial. So it's pretty great, I would say. This thing here will definitely see some play in not in Tier 1 decks, I don't know yet, but this is a 7 out of 10. It's like a spell killer, but maybe better, because it will buy you some time. The opponent will eventually play whatever they need to play, but in the meantime, you can find a solution for that. I mean, they want to bolt your piece, Aven Interrupter, and now they have to pay 3 mana to play the bolt. So, and after that you have a 2/2 flying on the battlefield, which is not bad. So this card is pretty decent. I don't know, 7 out of 10? Is that enough for you? So thank you for watching, guys. If you aren't subscribed to my channel yet, please do it. This will help me a lot. I saw we passed 300 subscribers. We are currently at 302. So thank you so much for staying with me. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you are as excited as I am to play Outlaws of Thunder Junction. I must admit I didn't love the dam of the set, like cowboys and whatever, but the design of pretty much all the cards is pretty cool, and it's the first time we go in the Far West in the Magic the Gathering universe, so I am really excited. I will make a video maybe tomorrow or Monday about the best 5 cards in the big score, which is a set in the set. I will talk about that later. So thank you for watching, subscribe to my channel, see you in the next video. Goodbye guys, have a nice day.